So I have props. So because we're a big fan, there's my favorite flavor, Kodiak. But recently, I love iced coffee too. And you're the one that hooked me onto this, but your New Orleans for iced coffee, killer good. Like this for iced coffee, really, really good. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question, why is that so good for iced coffee and why is Kodiak good for regular coffee? But hold your answer, because I'm going to ask that question in a sec. Because now you're doing spices. So this one's like a cool rub for like everything, right? Like rodeo rub, which is really cool. But this one right here is ridiculous. Was this like a mistake or like the smell's crazy? I'm Greg Forzani with Forzani Business Education, and this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast, where we provide insights for more profit and less stress in your business now with the purpose of turning it into a valuable asset. Welcome to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. I'm Greg Forzani here with Sean Key. Sean and I are good friends, I'm going to say not way back, but sort of way back, right? Not like midterm back. The years have been adding up. Cool story. Brought Sean on today's podcast because he's starting a business from scratch, and it's in a product that actually I think pretty much everybody listening to this will love, because we're all coffee drinkers. So Sean's started making coffee from scratch, which is really awesome. But before we get into the whole story, Sean, maybe introduce yourself. Where are you living currently? What's the name of your business? And what geographic area do you supply to? And what do you sell?
My name is Sean Key. I'm with Fire and Ash Coffee. We are located in Mesa, Arizona. We service all of Arizona, and the products that we make are fresh roasted coffee, anything coffee based as far as seasonings, lattes, cold brews, and we're getting into some baked goods now too, chocolates as well.
So I have props. So because we're a big fan, there's my favorite flavor, Kodiak. But recently, I love iced coffee too, and you're the one that hooked me onto this, but your New Orleans for iced coffee, killer good. This for iced coffee, really, really good.
Thank you.
I don't know okay, so I'm going to ask you the question, why is that so good for iced coffee and why is Kodiak good for regular coffee? But hold your answer, because I'm going to ask that question in a sec. Because now you're doing spices. So this one's like a cool rub for like everything, right? Like rodeo rub, which is really cool. But this one right here is ridiculous. Hey?
Thank you. That was
a mistake or like the smell's crazy?
That was something that we wanted to really do. And because we're in the Southwest, we really wanted like a chili lime, because it's great with pork. It's great with chicken, even fish. You get a chili and bass, or even, a salmon, and you get some of that on there. And it's just a good flavor. It took us a little while to source the lime that we wanted out of that, but it's a good pure lime, and it's a good overall flavor. It's with a touch of spice in there and a little bit of citrus. So
okay, so we're going to get into business conversation, and I think the listener would really appreciate your story because of your journey from like scratch to trying to figure stuff out. But before we get into the business stuff, we got to talk product for a sec, and we will talk coffee because that's the most interesting part. But before we get into the coffee, with the rubs, like I've shopped around for rubs for like grilling and smoking, and some are really good, some are like eh. But when I opened yours and smelled them, like, what it reminds me of? We have one of those gardens in the house, right? Like the hydroponic ones.
Yeah.
And it's against the wall, and everything that comes off that thing like tastes and smells crazy. Like my wife always says, go to a grocery store and pick up, like, say, tomatoes or apples or whatever, and smell them. And if you close your eyes, you actually don't know what you're smelling. Like they don't smell like real food. But when you get a real good one that's like from a farm, it's like, wow, that smells like a carrot, or that smells like an apple, and you can sure taste it, right? Like a good strawberry or whatever it is. So your rubs, when I opened them, when you first brought them over, I'm like, holy crap, they remind me of grabbing veggies off our fresh garden, right? Like they smell. So are you like sourcing, without going into too much detail, because I want to get more into coffee, I want to talk business, but like, where are you sourcing your ingredients from on the rubs? Because they don't smell like your everyday store-bought ingredients. They smell like real ingredients. Is it just me imagining things, or?
No, I do think the coffee enhances kind of the seasonings. You can't really taste the coffee in there, but it just almost enhances it and gives it just a touch of earthiness. But I do think it enhances the natural stuff. We are buying quality ingredients that are fresher, and that definitely goes a long way, to what you're smelling. We're not just buying the bottom of the barrel seasonings and slapping them together. We're actually, there's some thought in there with what we're putting in, the aromas that it has.
Yeah.
Like the prairie rub, the Mediterranean basil that's in there. It took us a while to source a good one on that, because that aroma, that Mediterranean basil, is just by far more superior than your standard basil. And it's
right.
And the product, the end result shows. And it's well,
And
thank
that
you.
comes out in the food, right? The
Yes.
smell and the taste.
Mhm.
Okay. So wait a minute. You're saying putting coffee in the seasoning is like enhancing the flavor of the ingredients?
Gives it a touch of earthiness and definitely enhances the aroma. So it's I don't know how or why, and it's not super packed with coffee, but we needed to find products that we could use, because we don't sell, our whole thing is fresh coffee. We don't sell things that are a month after being roasted. Sometimes, depending on the bean and how long it can hold. Well, sometimes 2 months, never more than that. The stuff on the shelf in the stores is year and a half old. And that's by the time it hit the store, who knows how old those beans were before they were even roasted.
Right.
So we need to, if and when we bring product back, we needed to find uses to utilize that and not just have it as a loss or a waste, turn it around and reprofit from it.
Cool. Okay. So we're going to get into business discussion, I promise. But so many people love coffee, and I in particular, like, I don't know, you call me addicted or whatever, but it starts my day, right? Like if I don't have that coffee in the morning, I'm like, the day is not the same. That's a real thing. Like that's just a real thing.
It's
And
the
I think a lot
ritual.
of people are like that. Yeah, there's something about it's like a lot of people are like that. And it's not even the whole cup. It's just like the first sip. It's like,
Yep.
Okay, my day's good. Now, I've traveled a lot of places in the world. Like I've been to Costa Rica, Panama, Italy, France, like places that are known for their coffee. And I would argue, until I tried yours, I would argue Costa Rica was probably the best I had had. Yeah, I would say Costa Rica. And it was amazing, to the point where that's where we were trying to bring our coffee in from, right? Like when we went and visited, I brought a hockey bag full of freaking coffee back from Costa Rica. I'm sure they labeled me as some kind of drug runner from that trip.
Of course.
Right? Like now I'm on, yeah, it's a problem. So like right out of the movies. So then I met you and we tried your coffee. And anyway, somebody listening to this, like Fire and Ash Coffee, go online and look. Personally, I'm guaranteeing it's the best coffee you ever had. If you like iced coffee, do the New Orleans. If you like regular coffee, this is just my opinion, but start with the Kodiak. It's the best. Okay, all that being said, and again, we'll get into business discussion in a minute, but I think this would be really interesting for people to learn. Like what makes, again, just in a few minutes, what makes your coffee so much better than whatever coffee I'm buying elsewhere? Like what is it you're doing?
We definitely.
And don't say you're adding like Coke or something to it, because it's just like,
damn it. Okay.
Busted.
That's how we keep the business going. So no, how we roast is different from the norm as far as where they achieve what they want out of the beans at the particular temperatures. We're able to do that at lower temperatures, and you still have the flavor of the bean. You still have the characteristics of the bean. Sometimes more of it shows out. You're not just getting an over roasted, burnt bitter or overly acidic coffee. Some people actually buy our coffee because the low acidity, as far as where we're able to balance our flavor at during that roast process. The same thing on the other end of the spectrum. It's not bitter. Our coffee is definitely smooth. You can get a full body flavor, still have it be smooth, not have that mouth pucker, have to overload it with sugar or cream or anything else like that. So it's
like I don't add, like, it's crazy, but I don't add any sweetener, sugar, nothing to yours. I do add cream, but that's it.
So do I. Yeah, it's
crazy.
The freshness of it is key. The SCA has its whole rule of guidelines as far as the SCA stands for Specialty Cup Association. It is a big corporate conglomerate that tells you how you should like your coffee, whether it be your ratios or where it's from, the notes that you should like, and how, just anything to do with coffee. They've got their hand in it to tell you how you should like your coffee. we buck that trend and a lot of the things that they do because I don't know, like coffee's a personal thing. Everybody likes their cup different. And for industry to say, this is how you should like your coffee, this is the ratio that you should use. And it bleeds down to manufacturers, whether it be espresso machines, whether it be just regular coffee brewers, the ratios that they have on the coffee bags that you're supposed to follow. It's all guided by the SCA and what they deem isn't, what they deem is the proper cup. The gold cup standard is what they call it. And we kind of don't abide by that. So we get a little bit of flack from the industry from it, but hey, that's what sets us apart. So
you mean it tastes better?
I think so. So I'm a little biased, but so.
Okay. So if I take away from that, you're roasting at a lower temperature longer. So there you go. That's right there, right? Like, a normal food company, if they're looking at, how much can they produce in the shortest amount of time, they're going to raise the temperature. And so then that's why there's a lot of very well-known chains out there I'm not going to announce where the coffee just tastes like bitter. Like I don't like if it doesn't have all that stuff in the coffee and you just have the coffee, it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
Like it's disappointing.
It is. It starts with the bean. A lot of those companies buy the lowest quality bean, because obviously margins matter. And so they'll buy one of those garbage bean that's out there because they can pick it up dirt cheap and then they have to over roast it to kind of get any kind of flavor out of it. And it's just sad. Then they have to create a massive sugar filled cup for you to be able to enjoy it. And it's not good for your gut. It's not good for your body. It's definitely not good for your wallet because the prices that you have to pay for those sugar packed drinks is insane sometimes.
And actually, without even getting into a whole different conversation that you touched on just a second ago, but the gut health, like all that sugar is really bad for the body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning more about that now. It's horrible. Okay, so then I know another thing you've talked briefly about. Again, we'll get into business in a second, but you've talked briefly about with coffee is. So give me some of the little tidbits you've shared with me, like when the first crack is and what that even means. Actually, like what does that mean, right? And just I don't know. Give me a couple little things. Just take a couple minutes and tell us a few things that people don't know about beans and roasting coffee. That'd be like, wow, that was super insightful.
From scratch, the coffee is basically like the pit of a cherry. There's coffee cherries. And so it takes a whole process and there's multiple levels of processing, whether it be natural, washed, sun fermented, even they just leave it out from the get go and let it kind of ripen and fall off on its own. That would be like a honey process. But from there, once that's fermented and once that's, got the pulp washed off of it and everything else, or however they processed it, it gets shipped out usually at about 10 to 12% moisture that's left in the bean. So by the time we get it, it's still got that 10 to 12%. We proceed to roast it. And when it's green, it's super hard. It's almost like a pea, basically, almost the same color, same size. And when we roast, we use a fluid bed roaster rather than a drum roaster. The fluid bed allows us to, it basically is heat and air instead of through convection, with a regular drum roaster. It lofts it and we're able to see exactly what's going on with the bean at any possible time rather than in the old school, drum roasters, you have to keep pulling the slide out to check the color of the bean, the process, all that good stuff. We're able to actually see it as it goes through its stages. First, it'll turn yellow as it dries and you almost kind of get a lemongrass, alfalfa kind of smell from that as it's turning. Then it goes into like a light brown phase and it smells like fresh cooked bread, at that point. So then once it gets past that, it moves into the first crack area. So as the bean roasts, it's going to swell and it's going to kind of break its outer skin. So once you hit first crack, that the moisture on the inside is escaping. So you'll hear the first crack is initially a large pop. A lot of roasters will stop slightly after first crack. It depends on how they want the flavor of their bean to be. We take ours to second crack. So second crack is a much smaller. It's the last, little bit of moisture exiting the bean as it, comes to the surface. And it's a much, much softer pop on there. So that's between the sights, the smells, and the sounds. That's pretty much right where we cut ours off, is at that second crack. And it's we're able to achieve that at a much lower temperature. We call it long roasting here at the house.
So then you don't get that burnt kind of flavor. Is that the point?
Yeah, once you go past second crack, for a ways, and the temperature that they're roasting it at.
But even the big brands that say try and roast it faster and they're done after first crack because the temperature is much higher. Is there more of a burnt sort of aftertaste to it, or I don't know if that's the right word, but
Just
again,
that
not to
bitterness.
name big brands, but it has that bittery burnt kind of taste.
Yeah, it's
Is that what that is?
how they're roasting it, the bean. A lot of them will take it. Most espressos are taken well past second crack because the industry says so. So you don't have to, but we usually stop ours right around second crack. My wife is a monster at roasting. When we first started roasting, it was me trying to figure stuff out, and then she is just taking it over. She got such good senses for that.
If you tell me she starts talking to each bean, like the whole, what is it, Wagyu beef or whatever, when they serenade the cows and different. If you start telling me she's doing that with the beans, I'm going to be like, okay, wait a minute, I'm calling
there
bullshit.
may be an occasional caress here and there on the beans, but no, but she is very good at roasting and figuring out the blends. She has been instrumental as far as, trying new things and looking at cupping notes and doing things. She's able to pick things out way faster than I can. So she's just taken with it. She's running with it. So
that's cool. Okay. One more coffee question, then we'll get into business. And I think this is maybe the most important question that people really, if you like coffee and you appreciate coffee and you appreciate being healthy, get in a little bit of description about when you should, how long is the shelf life of coffee?
That is truly debatable. We like to keep ours. We don't sell ours past a month just because we feel that it's the right thing to do.
From roasted.
So it's, we'll sometimes keep samples out, past that here at the house just to test. And it's, a lot of people don't have a problem with because that's what they're used to for so long, but just for the freshness, the quality of the bean, the quality of the cup, everything else, we don't sell it past a month old. And we're really good at rotating our stock wherever our beans are sold. But as far as keeping it in the house, if you're buying a lot of coffee, I would definitely recommend vacuum packing it as much as you can and keep it in the freezer. You
said there's like a tin or something. There's a thing you can buy just on Amazon or something, right?
There's tons of different things.
What's it called?
I think that was
a tip for the listener.
There's Airscapes, I believe, is one of them.
Okay,
You can even buy just a little. You can have a mason jar, and they have these little things on Amazon that will vacuum pack your mason jar, and you can just pop that on there, and it just takes all the air out, which we've actually been doing, and I think it works a little bit better than the Airscapes.
Okay,
but you can portion. Cool. Yeah, you can portion and keep it fresher.
So you're saying you like to sell the coffee within a month. Your recommendation, people should drink it within how long?
Usually within 3 weeks of purchasing. So that's your best bet to maintain.
So let's say within 2 months of roasting is when it should be drank.
Optimally. So some people will say 3 weeks. Some people will say, the expiration on these coffee bags is a year and a half out.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So when you go to the store and buy your coffee, that's basically what I'm getting at here. You go to the store and buy your coffee, it's a year and a half out. So it's like you lost a bunch of flavor. It's stale.
No flavor. If there is flavor, it's probably bad flavor. Coffee is an organic product. So literally by the time it's roasted and it gases off, because once it's roasted, it has a huge exhale. And that can take anywhere from a day to 3 days to fully kind of exhale. And that's where you get your flavor profile in there. From there, then with oxygen, with heat, moisture, sunlight, anything like that, it literally starts to decay because it is a natural product. So it's on a slow decline the minute after it's roasted as far as where it's at. Is it going to turn to dust? Right. No, but it's decaying literally. And sometimes the coffee that you buy in the store has got that. It's rancid. It's literally rotting in the bag, for lack of a better terms. And definitely the reason why you should buy whole bean, because once you grind it, it's accelerating that decaying process. Once it's ground, it takes about 15 minutes for that oxygen to set in and starts oxidizing and starts speeding up the decay process. So your best bet is definitely buy whole bean and grind it yourself as you need it. A heck of a lot.
Cool. Good tips. Okay, let's talk business. So started the business from scratch, right? You were telling me just before we went live, kind of started as a hobby. You're doing it for friends. Thought you were making $5 a bag, but now you're probably realizing you're losing money every bag, right? So it wasn't even like you were doing them a favor. You were literally getting them a bag of coffee and handing them money with it.
Yeah.
In theory. So I guess let's go back early in the story. I remember that day at our kitchen table and we started talking numbers, right? So let's say somebody's listening to this and they have an idea. They want to get into business and they just like, where do I start? What do I do? Can I even accomplish it? Can I make money at it? How much can I make? How big do I got to get? And without getting into the conversations about they got to form an LLC and get a bookkeeper and get a tax ID and all that stuff, stay away from that stuff. But just operationally, kind of walk us through your journey a little bit. Like, how did it start? What happened to you that triggered that, hey, you know what? I actually might be able to make a business out of this.
The whole reason we got into coffee was I was stuck on Monster energy drinks and not good for you. You know, everything else. I'm like, well, everybody likes coffee. I was like, let's try coffee. Tried a bunch of coffees. Hated them all. Kind of questioned why people even drink the stuff. So we started roasting for ourselves and started looking into it and like what the industry does and what the standards are and just everything that they say. So we just started developing our own. People started coming over to the house and trying it and liking it. And they wanted to buy a bag or something like that. So that's where the $5 came in. I was like, yeah, just give me $5. I'll roast you some. At that time, we were literally roasting with a heat gun or a hot air popcorn popper. And it was just, what we did. And that was 15 years ago.
It was a good charity.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was like, yeah, I'll make you a bag of coffee or whatever. And I was like, just $5 and come to find out. And it was costing us $5. And a few years down the road, we break even on that afterward. But after sitting down with you, because more and more people started asking for a bag of coffee, whether it be friends, family, or those friends or family members and friends of those friends. So when we sat down and talked, we definitely bounced back and forth. Do we want to do this? Is this profitable? Can we make a living doing this? And it's when we sat down with you and you helped us kind of crunch the numbers. What are your costs? Everything else. And that made us definitely realize where our costs at that time, where they lied. But you definitely helped us make sense of the numbers, see where margins were at, what we should be charging for coffee. And that's kind of went from there. The wife and I talked on the ride home, kind of now or never, if we're going to even attempt this, we got everything in our corner to do it, and it's, so let's go for it. The numbers seemed within reach after talking to you. And that was the crucial thing, because before it just seemed so abstract, so far. How do we get to this point? But the minute we sat down and talked with you and you made sense of it, you kind of calmed the mind down a little bit. This is doable.
We actually calculated. I remember we did it on a little piece of paper on the island there, like, how much revenue you'd have to do, and then what would the cost of that be roughly, and then okay, how many bags do you got to sell, and then how many bags would an average customer buy from you in a year, and then okay, how many customers is that, and then when we start getting to that number, is like, I remember you were like, we could do that. That's achievable, right? Versus someone just looking at it saying, hey, here's this pie in the sky number we got to get to, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and that's super common, right? We do that with all clients. I think that's a way to look at any business, is kind of break it down from revenue to how many transactions. So average transaction, how many transactions, how often does a customer buy from you? How many customers is that? Can we make that happen? That's kind of a nice way to do it to make it digestible. Okay, so then you had to go out and figure out a way to source all this stuff. So I think to a lot of people that can be super intimidating and scary. Like, you got to go, like, where do you start looking? I know you're in the coffee business, so that's one thing, but like, I guess, what would you say to people that are freaking out about starting some kind of product and saying, well, where do I even start sourcing that product? Where they want to make a t-shirt or coffee or whatever it is. Like, and then you've got into rubs and boom, you start sourcing stuff, right? Like, so without the specifics of coffee, what are kind of the general steps you went through? So I guess this is the point. You just said a minute ago, taking a scary revenue number and breaking it down like we talked about, made it seem more realistic and understandable. Can you do that same thing right now for if someone needs to go source product? Or where do they even begin? What does make that kind of sound like maybe I could do that?
Your best bet is to, obviously you have your end result being a massive block and you need to chisel bits off of it. Take one aspect of what you want to do, research the heck out of it. Because what we were paying for, I don't have the buying power of these big corporations. I don't have an importer's license. I don't have time nor the money to go to these individual farms, and source coffee or product, or go to a company on the other side of the country and look at their coffee bags. I still don't have that revenue and the buying power to massively buy labels that I want to do. So that's, we have to make do with what we have, and you're going to have to make concessions, but you shouldn't make concessions on the end result product that you want to have. You just got to bite off a little piece at a time, research it to death, find out what makes the most monetary sense within the area that you can function in and still have a good end result that you can be proud of. Cause that's ultimately what it is. Nobody gets in business to just sell garbage. That's, for us, it was, we've been with the coffee company for a long time. We started to notice a decline on some of their product, and we started to notice higher prices. So we're literally
one of your suppliers, you mean, like your vendors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So so that forced us. It really forced our hand to start looking outside the box as well. It's like, okay, well, there's a gajillion coffee farms out there. There's a gajillion importers. What is it that we want to get from our product? And then kind of worked backwards, at least in our instance. It's like,
so how does somebody find, how did you find coffee farms or distributors, or what if someone's looking to find a distributor for something? Do they just look online? You just looked?
The best thing is online, just searching, read forums. Cause a lot of people have been down this road before you, if you're just getting into it, Reddit forums, lots of internet searches. AI has been crucial for a lot of things that we do. Utilize AI, as far as sourcing, because they're able to search the entire internet and give you some of the best case scenarios as far as where you can find stuff that's, reliable or price.
Wow. There's a nugget right there. So let's say that from both a business like yours' perspective, where you're trying to find a supplier, you can ask AI and AI could tell you, hey, there's these 12, you could pick the area. You could probably start the search with, I'm looking for this kind of bean. Now, again, someone could do this about t-shirts or body lotion or whatever they're looking to make, right? Some kind of spray or whatever it is. But choose the thing I'm looking for. What are the areas that specialize in it? And then within those areas, what are the names of the factories, suppliers, farms, whatever? And you're right, with AI, it'll spit it out, which then takes me to, if you're a business that sells that stuff, if you're using AI, it'll make you discoverable to those people trying to find you.
I can only imagine. What helping out. It's been a game changer. It saves so much time, not only in the research aspects of things, but just in general. If we have an idea, we'll chuck it into AI, see if it's feasible, and play with the product or something else with AI. And that at least brings us to, instead of starting from scratch, you've now just advanced it by massive amounts of time, and you're able to at least get a good solid base and tweak it from there. So it's been a game changer.
I'll bet. Okay. So then what if someone says, yeah, but Sean, my situation's different. I can't order the volume to do something. What's your reply to that?
Neither can I.
They don't even want to look. They haven't even checked. They haven't even researched. They haven't even looked. They're just assuming because they're new. They just can't order the volume. They're not going to be taken seriously.
Companies will definitely work with you. You got to reach out to them. If they have a particular product that you want to have or that you need to make your end product, reach out to them. The old saying is you're going to miss every shot that you don't take. And it's for us, working with some individual farms, we wouldn't have had that opportunity had we not reached out to them, had we not, either gotten samples or just, they want to move their product too. And anything that they can have their hand in, they're going to try and work around it, do something, whether it be any aspect of it. Yeah, you can't buy on volume, but you can still buy, and money's money, and they will definitely find one way or another to take it.
And there's probably another little hidden gem here in that a lot of cottage industries like manufacturing or growing or whatever are probably used to dealing with big distributors. Like distributors will come in and say, we'll take everything for this many years, or we'll take half your stuff for this many years, and they beat them up on price. And then that distributor makes a markup, and then that distributor makes another markup. Like coffee beans probably, without getting into all the details, I'm just going to assume if it's grown in, say, Central America or whatever country it's growing in, there's probably some kind of local town person that takes a cut and collects it all. Then that takes it to some kind of country roundup person that takes a cut, buys it all, marks it up again. And then that goes to somebody in the US or Canada that brings it in and marks it up again, takes a cut. And then that goes to some kind of manufacturing plant that then marks it up and takes a cut. And then that goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So someone could say, if I'm hearing this story right, if you phone the farm direct, they can bypass probably 3 layers between them and you of people making a profit. So they can sell it to you for a little bit more per bag, but you get a better deal than where you'd be buying it from currently. And that's not a bad thing. That probably is a reason why they would want to sell to you. Like not to be afraid to reach out and do that. Does that sound?
That's absolutely accurate. We're able to, the farm, if you deal directly with the farm, most importantly, find a farm within particularly coffee. If you can find a farm that already ships to the US and has like a home base in the US where they don't have to have some kind of crazy
figure that out
and whatnot, because or else you're going to be paying a crazy amount of shipping.
Right.
But if they already have a US based location as far as like warehousing, you can deal directly with them. And it is such a pro for the farm, because they don't have to pay all these hike-ups and everything else. And you don't have to either. You're going to save money and get a better quality product, in the long run by dealing directly with the farm. They actually get the money that they should be getting instead of these big conglomerates going in and buying a pound of coffee, $1.
Right.
$6 to $7 a pound for good quality coffee that's fresh, has a history, the family, they care about the land and everything else. It's much better for the farmer if you deal with them directly, if you can.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So then hopefully that would lower some anxiety about people going out and just trying to source products, whatever that might look like. Okay. So then you got all that dialed. So then we get into the fun conversation of the numbers. And I want you to expand on if you can sort of expand on your journey of the numbers. And I don't know, it might be hard to remember because right now you know what you know, and it's hard to remember what you didn't know and the steps to get to knowing what you know. But I'll say here's the reason why I think it's really cool to hear your story is because I remember you came over the other day, literally, actually. You came over the other day to drop off these and I can't remember what came up. We started talking about something and I asked some kind of number question. You're like, well, let me check. And you pulled out like your phone and right on your phone, you're like, oh, I got the table and the calculator right here. I know exactly. It's like this to the penny. And this is going to be the margin percent to the 100th of a percent. And then that means I could sell it for this. And I just sat there and I shook my head in a good way because as you know, I am over the top, unapologetically passionate about small business succeeding because they're getting killed. And watching you and Carrie, your wife, do that at that moment with the phones. And you did a couple of questions I asked. It's like, well, let me check that. And then you check and I'm like, this is what every business needs to do when they answer questions or when they ask themselves questions or when they're going to make a decision for themselves. Like whether it's set up at the farmer's market, whether it's create a new product and what you're going to sell it for, whether it's if I source it at a better price, how much can I charge for it? Or like if you can just kind of walk through the journey you went through from knowing probably none of that or very little of it to where you're at today, which is like, let me check the number, which is really cool.
You definitely instilled that. I mean, just working, through your program, it's just been insane from the get-go. I mean, there were things that were, we would price something and we weren't thinking about all the aspects of it. So you definitely instilled that in us to think of every single aspect of it. With coffee in particular, we have to deal with loss as
right.
When you buy a pound of coffee, it didn't start off as a pound of coffee. It started off, 20% heavier than that. So we have to consider loss to how our price is. Shipping, that needs to be added into everything that you do. Look, X-wise, you can generally write off shipping later, but you still have to account for that in your pricing. Anything that goes into it. And last but not least, your own time. When you broke down, how much would it take to pay somebody else to do that? That needs to be included in that. And you broke it down by
how long does it take Carrie to serenade the beans?
Mm-hmm, exactly. So whisper sweet nothings into it's like, you're going to be a good one. So no, it's every single aspect of it. It's anything that you can think of that costs you money needs to be broken down per
and time.
Yeah. And time, per batch. Like, well, how many things can you achieve in an hour? That needs to be broken down into, if you're going to make 20 bars of soap in an hour, to charge somebody $20 an hour or pays to somebody $20 an hour to make that, you need to do the math to get how much does each bar of soap cost you in labor. Same thing on any product that you're making. Just give deep thought, write down as you're creating the product, every single thing that would cost money or time. And it's crucial, because then you'll truly know what you need to mark things up at, what's it included, and you're not going to be out unsuspected money down the road. So you know exactly how much each product costs to create, what is the whole end result. It's brilliant, and I wouldn't have ever thought of half of that stuff had we not talked with you. And you figure it's a basis on business, but a lot of people just kind of skip over that. Like, oh, it's only 2 cents. And it's 2 cents adds up a lot. And if you keep track of everything down to the penny on what each item costs, whether it be per ounce, per gram, per ton, you will know where you might be able to gain an extra 5 cents. You can reanalyze your product that you're coming in and be like, hey, what if I sourced it from here instead? What's the benefit of that? Is the quality the same? And you're able to actually dial in better cost per product and better, cost of goods, I should say, as far as what's going to be more profitable for you down the road. Might take a little bit of research and development to test something out, but, if you're profiting, you're going to have that room to be able to maneuver that.
So you just said a couple of things I want to circle back to. Excuse me. Like it forced you to think about, and you said like grab a sheet of paper and a pen or whatever, or use a computer, whatever you're going to use, and really get into the detail. Like, as you're doing the process, be aware of every little detail you're doing. Like if you're adding like a bolt and a nut, if you're adding a sprinkle of something, if you're adding thread, if you're whatever it is, a fragrance, like write all those things down, because they all become part of that cost of goods. And then it sounds like also, like as you're doing labor, every little thing you're doing, how long's it taken? Every minute here and minute there, like it all adds up, right? Because that, as a company, you're paying for that anyway. If you don't put in your cost of goods, it's going to end up in your expenses, and then it's going to take away from your profit. It's really actually that simple. Yeah.
And you will also be able to process how you can get your whole process down as far as making things like, okay, what's going to be more efficient? How much more can I put out in an efficient manner just by adding 1 or 2 things? When it came to our cold brew, okay, let's add, an extra filter and see how much more volume that we can get in that same amount of time frame. So it's going to help you modify when you sit there, and especially on the labor portion of it, the hourly rate, the wage, you're going to be able to be like, okay, well, obviously you want to maximize your time and money. It's going to help you look at it and be more efficient as far as creating different avenues.
Yeah, I love it. I think, to your point, by doing the exercise of writing everything down and calculating, it's bringing awareness to how can I make each of those faster, better, less mistakes, whatever. And that's going to lower cost of goods. Yeah, that's awesome. And another thing you said that prompted me to think about is now probably, and I know you're in coffee, but you could do this in any industry. Now that you're so laser focused on each of those cost items, how has that changed your approach with vendors? Like, talk about that.
It's everything, especially when we consider in the coffee, area in particular, that you're going to lose money just based off evaporation of coffee. So if somebody's got a great bean and another company has a great bean, and they're both from the same areas, same volcanic soil within the percentages that you want, the same region, everything else, but one has a shipping fee and the other one doesn't. Obviously, you got to think about the one that does not have, any shipping charges,
Right.
and so much so where even if it might cost maybe 2 cents more, per pound or something like that, if you don't have to pay shipping on that can cross itself out. So you got to analyze. I mean, even down to the electricity that you're using to make something, everything has a cost, and it should definitely go on your cogs and be as detailed as humanly possible.
You remind me about, we have a client that's in the distribution business, and they were saying to me, this goes back a while, maybe 12 months ago, they were talking about this, but another vendor in their industry, so another distributor, their competition in their industry, lowered their prices a little bit, but then raised the shipping prices. And net, my client's overall price to the customer was less when you combine the two, but their customers were saying, yeah, but the other guy's cheaper. And
Are they?
And my client, right, exactly. And the client's having to educate them, my client's having to educate them, like, no, you got to add it all up and take the freight into account, because those retailers are like, well, the freight's the freight. Well, no, the freight's not the freight, because if the freight is $1 a unit versus 25 cents a unit, that's 75 cents more. So if you got to pay me 25 cents more, you're still saving 50 cents. Like, it's, I think to your point, I actually made a post the other day on social media about this, because as a customer, I went to a place on the weekend to buy something and it was super cheap. So I just paid cash, and the person literally couldn't do the math to figure out the change. And, I'm not throwing that person under the bus. I'm throwing our education system under the bus, because, like, I don't think our education system does a very good job of teaching math, and not just teaching math, but maybe more importantly, and maybe this is my gripe, it's less about the shitty job they're doing teaching math. It's more about the shitty job our education system's doing about helping people understand the importance of math in life. Because if people understood how important it was, they would put a higher priority on it and do a better job learning it and teaching it, which takes me to the point you're making. Like, it's crazy important. If you have anything to do with owning a business, math is insanely important. You can't run away from it. Like, you just can't. And if you don't run away from it, then you catch things like you're talking about. But if you run away from math, then you don't catch things like you're talking about, which is the difference between shipping price or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, these companies don't have your best interests at heart. Obviously, they need to sell a product and everything else too, but they got to make money in the end of it. And sometimes it's at the expense of laziness, not doing your homework, not seeing if the math is going to math, and and what you need out of your product. So you're only doing yourself a disservice if you're not doing the due diligence of breaking things down for what you need, the price, the cost, every facet of it.
So I'm going to continue on this. It's going to sound like I'm changing gears, but I think it's a continuation of what we're talking about. What would you say to a small business owner that's maybe in the early stages? Well, in any stage, but let's just say more particularly early stages, that says, like, I don't have the time. I'm busy. Like, Sean, you don't understand. My situation's different. I'm busy. I got kids. I got stuff going on. I don't have the time. Like, I mean, I'll get to it when I get to it, and I'll keep just hoping tomorrow's better.
You can carve out time if you want to. If it's not important to you, you're not going to make the time. I have a 9-to-5 job, which is about 60 hours a week, and it's and then we do the coffee as well.
And you got a family you got to take care of.
Yeah, I'm lucky in the aspect that I have a workhorse of a wife, and she's intelligent, ethic on hers is just amazing. So I'm lucky in that aspect. Not everybody will have that. Even if you're by yourself, if you want it, you're going to find time. You're going to maximize your life as far as, to create time. And I'm bad about it because I don't exactly practice what I preach either. There's things that I need to do paperwork wise that I'm like, if I just put an hour to 2 hours, on the weekend just to do that, my life would be so much better. And life gets in the way. It's going to get in the way. You got to see if it's feasible for you.
What advice would you give to a business owner because what you just said something a minute ago, that's actually, I think, really, like you said, you're lucky because Carrie has the same work ethic you do. And I agree. I think that's awesome. What would you say to the business owner where kind of deep down they know their spouse doesn't have the same work ethic, or their spouse maybe isn't prepared to make the sacrifices to make the business succeed? Like they want the benefit from the business, but they don't maybe quite understand you got to earn that right and you got to make sacrifice in the beginning. What advice would you give that business owner how they go talk to their spouse? Like, what would you say? Because I know this is a bridge I cross like monthly with clients. Like this conversation is a monthly thing. Not the same client every month, but once a month I'm having this conversation. Yeah, exactly. Once a month I'm having this conversation with the client because it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, right?
You got to be on the same page. You know, if your spouse is not as driven as you are, that's a hard thing to sell. I don't have experience in that kind of talk. As far as my wife is massively supportive in anything that I want to do. And it's probably to her detriment because I seem to drag her down in a lot of stuff. But as far as you're going to have that conversation with your spouse, like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to need help. And she's got to be on board with you. Show her the numbers, make it make sense. Do your homework first and show her that this is achievable. But with her help, then you can be massively successful at it, or at least start. Just kicking that pebble down the road and making yourself either. So you got to have the hard conversation. Now, you might have to sell it, to her as far as making her think it's feasible, but you need to do your homework to make sure it's feasible first. So, or else she's just going to resent you. So.
Yeah, 100%. Boy, I think you're dead right there. I think that's exactly what I see. It's first do the homework to build the plan to make sure, is this feasible? Because otherwise you're putting your family at risk, et cetera, right? And then what does that business provide for the family? What is, like, if we can make this happen, what does that do for the family? And are we prepared to both do what we have to do to make that work, right? And make those sacrifices or put that effort in, yeah, I agree 100%. That's exactly. And not everybody's prepared to have that conversation. But from my experience, I find the clients that do actually go do that exercise, they almost always come back and go, wow, that worked really well. We're on the same page. Like, we had the conversation and we're together on it. We're prepared to go do that thing. And then that kind of changes everything. From that point forward, everybody's more excited about the business versus one spouse being kind of resenting the business, which then becomes a real problem.
It becomes a team adventure. And it's also, it gets the marriage a little bit more exciting because, I've been with my wife 30 years now. And to say that everything was new and exciting.
Are you that old?
I am that old. I'm going to be 50 in September. So, but yeah, 30 years we've been together, and it's life gets monotonous sometimes. Everybody's got their routine, their schedules, and then so that, and starting a business together can be a crazy adventure depending on the mindset of each person. It could be good or bad, but my wife she is a calm, cool head, a smart head to bounce things off of. She'll come to me and bounce things off of, and we can brainstorm together. And the stuff that we've been able to do just by putting our heads together and just basically riffing, I mean, it's helped out our business a ton. So, and our marriage a ton. Not that it was any problems before, but it adds that new element of we're together,
Yeah. Camaraderie. You're working together towards an end goal. And you're building something together. I love you said that, because I think it kind of, I don't know what do you think of this? It kind of feels like family business. It's like, I'm drawing a blank what food now. I just literally said this to somebody the other day, and now I'm drawing a blank what food I was talking about. But that specific food's either like great or shitty. There's no in between, right? So I think family business is probably kind of the same. Like, it's either shitty because there's resentment,
friction,
or it's great because you're building this thing together and you're excited. And it probably really comes down to what we've just been talking about, which is how you position it, how you initially have that conversation. And even if you haven't already had it, you got to have the conversation. But if you can have it and get like this, it can be great. Like, it can be exciting. It can be like productive, and like you're builders and you're accomplishing something together, which is great. And it's going to have its moments of friction, but versus I think a lot. So I think it's either one or the other. I don't know if I talk to very many people, family businesses, where it's in between. It's like either a lot of friction or it's great. And it probably comes down to that conversation. Can you build that plan? Can you have that conversation? Yeah.
Their personalities as well, their individual, personalities. Are they people that are just stonewall everything? Or are they people that at least are accepting of some kind of change? And it's
Right.
personality is huge. You know who your spouse is, I hope, as far as how you can talk to them and
Right.
approach them on things and make it work. So you have to,
Yeah.
if you want to accomplish it, you got to have that person on your side.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, last couple questions before we wrap up. Being because you're still in the startup phase, right? Like it's a new company. Give us some do's and don'ts from your perspective, your experience so far. What are some major do's and don'ts for a startup company? Like, do this, don't do that.
Watch the money that comes in. Make sure you're in profit by looking through your cogs, making sure it's feasible, and don't spend unnecessarily. Yeah, a write-off. Yeah, you're still spending that money that can go for research, development, and just building, the profit. So don't get stuck in that. Like, we'll put this on here for social media. Look good. We'll write it off. You're still spending company money that you probably shouldn't yet.
Sorry, are you going to be able to keep your train of thought if I interrupt you for 2 seconds?
No, go for it.
Have you seen the little video clip that went around about Eugene Levy has a TV show series, the recent one.
Is it Schitt's Creek or something?
Yeah, Schitt's Creek. Have you seen the video clip that goes around where his kid's in business and his kid goes, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It's a write-off." And Eugene Levy's like, "What do you mean it's a write-off?" He says, "Well, you just write it off." Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I've lived that for the last 6 months.
You got to go find the video clip because Eugene Levy's trying to sort of teach him about business, and the kid's like, "Well, it's a write-off," and you got a brand new this and a brand new that and a brand new the other thing, and he's like, "Well, it's a write-off," and Eugene Levy's like, "Well, who's writing it off?" And he says, "I don't know, the government. Somebody's writing it off," and he's like, "Well, where's the money come from?" He says, "I don't know. It's a write-off."
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, as you're saying that, I'm picturing that video.
That's hilarious because
it's hysterical. Okay, keep going.
No, we've had that conversation, and my wife is, she's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, all right." So we've
honey,
had
it's a write-off.
Yeah, exactly. So no, use any money you can to scale your product, build your inventory, whatever it takes. That extra money is not a write-off. It's gonna enable you to find a better product, possibly cheaper. You might have to buy that product to test that product. At least in our case, I don't know how a bean is gonna be just by companies or farms cupping notes, because anytime you roast anything, the cupping note's going to be different. And it's, so ours has to go back into research and development to find an equipped, if not better bean, hopefully at cheaper cost, down the road. So that's where our profit, currently goes right back into, because we are new. But manage your money, pay attention to every single dime that a product costs you, whenever you're designing, making, write down everything. You're going to find out what you can charge for what everybody else, are you competitive? Are you going to have to overprice? Just because you're small and you might be decent doesn't mean that you can, overprice and gouge somebody. You still got to be competitive, which in the beginning, you and I talked about coffee price per ounce, and we're still within that realm. And we look at that every time we go to the grocery store. We'll look at premium brands and everything else, and they're charging $1.80, per ounce. We're still under that, but a better product. And it's, you got to look at every aspect of it. Every aspect.
Boy, you're making me think, man, I love you just said that, because that's the probably opposite advice in a good way of what so many startups probably do. Because I think most startups, they get into it, they get super busy, they're running in 100 different directions, and they're like, well, my revenue is not really that high because I'm a startup, and therefore I don't have to look at the numbers. Like I don't need to look at it because it doesn't matter, right? I just got to go work hard. I got to do a lot of stuff. And you're saying the opposite. You're saying in the early stages, which should be in any stage, but in the early stages, know your numbers even better so that you're doing the most effective activity, right? You're doing it right. Because I think to your point, I think startups, I think they don't look at numbers. They just run around, chase their tail, because I don't need to look at the numbers because they're not very good. Well, that's when you should be looking at the numbers so you can make them better.
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
If you're going to move forward at all, you have to know your numbers, get your COGS down, every facet of it. I know we've hit it a few times during this talk, but it's just that important. Your profit margin and your markups and all that can come later. You got to know your base of what your cost is, and you can help out as far as margins from B2B, B2C, and, everything else like that, as far as getting your price where you need it to be and to be competitive. But you got to know your costs first. That is absolute minimum. And you can't have profit and do other things if you're not even in profit. So you can't research and development anything else if you don't have the funds to do it, because if you're funding it all yourself, you're just treading water. It's just,
right.
You're going to sink at some point.
You just shared another nugget there. If you're in a business that's going to end up doing B2B and B2C, you absolutely need to know your numbers to know what you can afford to do B2B, because the B2C is easy as far as figuring the price out. The question is, are you going to make profit on the B2B? And if you don't know your numbers, you can't figure that out. So yeah,
you got to stay within profit, Joe, no matter what, or else, if you're just supplying wholesale at cost to you, then what's the point?
Yes. Yeah, love it. That's such good advice. Okay, so if somebody listening to this is willing to take my word that they should try this, because I'm telling you, it's the fucking best coffee you'll ever drink, how do they get a hold of you and do that? And what does that look like? Like, what's that look like? How do they get a hold of you? Where can they buy it? How do they buy it?
If you check us out on Instagram at Fire and Nash Coffee. Website is coming along. I'm, again, 50 years old, and that is a slow process for me. And I'm not about to hire somebody $1,000 to build a website. So that's a slow process. So Amazon, look at Amazon too. I mean, if you're, back to the business side of things, if you have a product and you want to sell it, Amazon can be local for you. Check into it, because that's a good avenue. The prices are solid as far as getting your stuff on Amazon. You just have to register UPC, which isn't bad. So anyway, but as far as getting hold of us,
that's a good tip. Yeah.
That'll help them out in the long run. But as far as getting hold of us, Instagram at Fire and Ash Coffee. You can find our product at Sovereign Acres Farm in Apache Junction. They're all over Instagram as well. We are at the Mint Market, and there's a massive farmers market that's down there in Mesa/Queen Creek. You can check them out on Instagram, Mint Market AZ. We're trying to get into a few other stores around here. We're going to put a call to action, for some of our customers. I'm like, hey, if you enjoy our product and you want to see us in your local mom and pop store or niche shop or anything like that, give us a call or reach out to us at the name of that person, that company, a store, and we'll reach out to them and be like, hey, you've got customers that go to you that want to, that buy our product as well. And they would love for us to be in your store. So we're going to do a call to action here. So you can also feel free to give me a text at 480-703-1352. Give us a shout out. If you're in Arizona, we'll ship to you. Or if you're on the east side of Phoenix, we'll deliver no charge and drop it off Amazon style.
Cool. Awesome, Sean. Thank you. I hope people got some good advice from this. Plus, I always think it's cool people can learn about coffee, because everybody loves drinking coffee. And I think your knowledge on coffee is crazy. So it's always interesting to hear about that. Well, appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. And we'll keep slinging those beans.
Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform, and leave a comment or review, as it helps with the algorithm. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, go make it happen.